Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be doing Scientology videos. So let me open this up with trigger warning. This is a Scientology video. So these are going to be my thoughts and opinions on this religion. If you do not like my thoughts and opinions on this religion, go ahead and click off this video now and tune into some of my more beauty related videos on this channel, or don't. Also, if you do not like the way I deliver my videos, also click off this video. So, with the trigger warning out of the way, I'm going to be going through some articles that I have come across in regards to Scientology. So I'm going to go through a couple of them now. The first one is from Showbiz 411. This is soap opera chaos as Scientologist actress Michelle Stafford exits General Hospital as show does cult storyline. I read this a couple weeks back and found it hilarious. Okay, so Michelle Stafford was on General Hospital. She is now leaving the show and going back to The Young and the Restless. So apparently she was on Young and the Restless, left there, went to General Hospital. Now she's going back to The Young and the Restless. She left The Young and the Restless after a not so successful stint on the former show. After 16 years. But General Hospital has introduced apparently this new storyline involving a cult called Dawn of the Day. Dawn of the Day, not coincidentally, is a 1981 book by German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche that would drive Scientology creator L. Ron Hubbard crazy, according to this article. But it says here in the article that the soap cult is very similar to Scientology. Members are being roped into paying big fees for classes. They have a charismatic leader who's insinuating himself into various characters' lives. This isn't the first time that General Hospital has attacked Scientology either. For several years they featured a clinic for the criminally insane called Miscavige, obviously named for David Miscavige, the real life Napoleonic leader of Scientology. It says here, as General Hospital cult story grew, sources say Stafford's appearances on the show became less and less. She was rarely seen on scene as Dawn of the Day was put on the front burner and is exiting General Hospital over contract negotiations. And her return to Young and the Restless is now, it says here, means that a much more talented actress who succeeded her 5 years ago, Gina Tognini, is out. But she won an Emmy in 2017. But, so, apparently, General Hospital has issues, or the writers of General Hospital have issues with Scientology, so they decided to continuously attack Scientology, which pushed out Michelle Stafford. So, that is that article. It's very short, just sweet, to the point. But I found it hilarious. I laughed very hard at that one. Now, the other ones that I'm reading right now are very in-depth. So let's go to Mike Rinder's blog. This one is entitled, How Big is Scientology? Now, Scientology likes to make some grand claims about how large their following is and how much they're taking over the world and clearing the world and this, that, and the other. So he starts off with the question is, how big is Scientology? Scientology really comes up often. The organization does not make its membership figures known, though they make a good count with a total number of IAS members. Of course, even that is inflated, as it is notoriously difficult to get off a Scientology mailing list, and as long as they can still send you junk mail, you count on their statistics. So, of course, they're lying about it. But over the years, the spokesperson have given various claims between 4, 6, 8, or 10 million members, but they refuse to define what a member is, though a few times they have stated it is anyone who had bought a book or taken a service ever. That seems very vague, in my opinion. Like, you know, people can be curious and look into it and then go, not my cup of tea. It doesn't mean you're a lifelong member. It just means you were curious at some point. It would be kind of screwed up for Baptists to still consider me a member of their church when I haven't attended a service in 15 years-ish. But it says, lately they have been less inclined to put the number or just say there are millions of Scientologists, or even more passive, millions of Scientologists are happy to be in the leadership of David Miscavige. So now they don't even want to give a number. They're just saying millions. Again, very vague, very misleading, and also a lie. Attendance in their international events is a good gauge of really active Scientologists, as non-attendance to bow before a dear leader is tantamount to a crime against humanity at this point. Mike Render cracks me up because he is just really speaking the truth. David Miscavige runs around like a child pounding his chest for attention. Like, he reminds me of some of these like little boys that want to be men, and I could see this whole "you didn't come to my event" kind of temper tantrum thing going on. There has never been more than 40,000, and it has been declining since the 90s, perhaps by half. But occasionally, they put out something in their own words that inadvertently gives some more accurate insight into the shrinking world behind the bubble of Scientology. You just have to know how to read and understand it. Here is the latest Ron's Home, the first advanced org. So it says the bridge progress just since February. So it's this, okay, here we go. It's just kind of like this graphic. So bridge progress just since February: 29 SRD completions, 79 auditors made, 22 new clears, 125 OT completions, 31 new OT 5s. Oh yeah, and we were the world champions. It gives a AOSH UK champions of something. Come on service at St. Hill. So that doesn't jump out at anyone that's outside of Scientology. Like, that doesn't jump out to me as anything like massive. It says this promotional item proudly announces the accomplishments of AOSH UK, which according to their announcement is the best advanced org on earth. They are the champions, meaning they have expanded faster over the last year than any other advanced org on earth. There are only 3 others: Los Angeles, Sydney, and Copenhagen. The 4th in Joburg just opened, so it is not in its completion. It will eat into the market share of the other 3 AOs. So it represents more than 25% of the worldwide total of Scientology. So now that makes more sense. These advanced orgs are splitting up. Sorry guys, neck's bothering me. It's splitting up the world into sections. So when you look at it that way, it makes more sense why these numbers are so big. So it says, let's analyze these numbers, starting with since February. No doubt they are counting the months of February and March. But it could mean in the last month. So let's split the difference and call it 6 weeks. 29 SRD completions, 79 auditors made, 22 new clears, 125 OT completions, and 31 new OT5s. We can pretty much ignore the SRD. This is a low-level service that has nothing to do with the advanced org, other than they are forcing people to do it because they don't have any other services to put them in. 79 auditors made sounds somewhat impressive until you know what this stat means. It counts one of any courses completed in the academy. So to make a Class 5 auditor, which is a Class 5 org level auditor, there are numerous courses that count on the way. Pro TRs, metering, Dynetics, book auditor level 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you can basically divide that number by 10 to get the number of actual auditors made. So if you divide 79 by 10, and because they do not say 17 Class 5 auditors made, you can bet that the number of Class 5s is actually 0. 22 new clears, 4 per week. Most orgs in the UK are forbidden to make clears as they do not have the requisite technical staff. Let's just limit this to the UK and estimate very generously. And this represents half the clears made in the UK at any given period. I would guess it is likely 90% given the state of the orgs in the UK, but less than 10 total clears a week means they are going backwards on clearing the UK, as the population is growing 1,000 WOGs to 1 for each clear they are making. The UK is getting less clear. 125 OT completions. Another misleading stat. Each level counts. Solo course part 2, OT1 theory, OT1 practical, OT2 theory, OT2, etc. When you consider this is more than 25% of the total OTs made in advanced orgs on planet Earth, some are made at Flag 2. It tells you a lot about how big Scientology really is. And this is a reflection of how many people are arriving from lower level orgs to move through the OT levels. A quarter of the orgs is about 40. 125 in 6 weeks is less than 20 a week. I didn't mean to do that. This is generously about 4 new starts on OT levels from lower level orgs, or 1 every 10 weeks from each org tells you how dead the orgs really are. And the final number is the most telling of the all. 31 new OT5s, nuts. This is how many people are ready to now go to Flag and do solo per week. Let's be generous and say that there are 3 AOs also do 5 per week, possibly at AOLA. Not a chance in AOASHO or EA or EU. 20 people a week ready to go to Flag. Even if half of them go, Flag is empty. 10 arrivals per week is nothing for a facility with 500 hotel rooms. And their target of 10,000 will never be met unless they continue to count the dead people on their total. The old are dying off, and the vast majority of those at the top of the bridge are old. It is generous to even believe that half of them will go to flag. Most of them are financially exhausted once they complete the NOTs, and it requires some hard work and saving to afford to go to flag and spend 6 weeks trying to get through the OT6 course. So, there is no doubt Scientology is dying on the vine. When he breaks it down like that, those numbers where they're bragging don't seem so impressive anymore. Well, I mean, they didn't really seem that impressive in the first place. I mean, if you really look at it, it doesn't seem that impressive. If you have all of these new people and everybody's so interested and everybody's talking about it and everybody's wanting to know and all of this, it really doesn't seem that impressive that your numbers are mostly in the double digits. So, when he breaks it down that way, and breaks it down even further so that you totally understand everything in those numbers and what they mean, then you're really looking at Scientology like, what are you doing? Like, why are you even putting that out there? That makes you really look really dumb. So, they say they are changing the world and bringing sanity to this sect of the universe and clearing the planet, but the truth, they are not even a discernible presence in the world. And they are further away from these goals today than they were 50 years ago. And I can see that because, like, if you think about it, when somebody says Scientology, like, if you're just sitting around talking and you have a few people from different faiths and somebody brings up Scientology, the first thing people think of is cult, abusive, Tom Cruise. Those are like the first 3 things that come up. If anybody else brings up anything else, then it kind of goes into like a back and forth debate. And so, yes, while we don't have an accurate number of how many Scientologists there are, millions is a very far stretch because, like, really and truly, if there were millions of them out there, why aren't there more orgs at places? Why don't you know a Scientologist? Like, do 6 degrees of separation in your life. Like, seriously, sit down and do 6 degrees of separation in your life. Do you know a Scientologist? Does anybody that you know a Scientologist? Does anybody that they know a Scientologist? It is not going to be a positive answer for most people. Now, you know, that may be different for some people, but for most people, it's just not going to be a good answer. Okay, so I think I'm going to cover one more story on this video. And this story is going to come from Tony Ortega's Underground Bunker, and it's titled Scientology's Bogus Arbitration. The Garcia appeal brief is here, and it's a beauty. Now, I haven't read all the way through this brief because I really didn't know anything about the case, so we're going to look through it together. Now, the brief really doesn't start until page 14, and it's 72 pages long, so pretty much from what I've gathered so far. The Garcias, this is going to be Maria and Luis Garcia, sued the Church of Scientology Flag Services and the Church of Scientology Flagship Services. They sued the Church of Scientology Flag Services Organization Incorporated and the Church of Scientology Flagship Organization Incorporated and 3 other Scientology-related entities alleging breach of contract, fraud, misrepresentation, and unfair and deceptive sales practices as defined in sections, and it gives some Florida, oh, sorry, didn't mean to kick the camera, and it defines, it gives a Florida code. Plaintiffs are former members of the Church of Scientology, and they sought damages from the defendant for 3 categories of payment they made while they were members. Okay, so basic rundown. They went to court suing these entities of the church for their money back. The judge there, I think his name was, oh shit, I didn't mean to do that. What is his name? Judge James D. Whitmore said that he could not hear their case in his court because it violated Scientology's First Amendment rights to freedom of religion and religious practices. Because he said that they have an arbitration process, an internal arbitration process, and the Garcias had to go through that. And the Garcias had even presented stuff from Mike Rinder and Marty Rathbun saying that the arbitration process is bullshit and it doesn't exist and it doesn't do any good and it's just pretty words and there's no arbitration process. But the judge still said, no, I can't hear this case, go to the arbitration process. So they've tried to do the arbitration process through the church. They've got an attorney. They filed an appeal case. So this is the appeals case. So they are suing for, it says 1 category of damages arose from payments made for the Superpower Project, a Scientology facility in Clearwater, Florida, which was commenced in 1995 but still not completed 17 years later when the complaint was filed. Plaintiffs allege that the Superpower Project was maintained in an incomplete state to induce contributions from members based on false representations. While it is initially estimated to cost $40 million, at least $200 million have been raised through, although less than half of that was spent in its construction. So they're saying, look, they started this back in 1995. They told us it was going to be $40 million. They left it in a state of, disrepair. They didn't complete it. They've raised over $200 million. They've only used a fraction of that to complete this shit. They screwed us out of money. Then they said between October 98 and January 2004, they were solicited 13 different donations for the Superpower Project, emphasizing the imminent need for funds to complete it and offering various inducements. During that time, the plaintiffs donated a total of $218,500 to the Superpower Project, and it was alleged that those contributions were solicited by false representation. In August 2005, defendants asked plaintiffs to make another $65,000 contribution to purchase a large cross of Scientology to be affixed to the top of the Superpower Project building, and were told that contractors were standing by to do the work once payment was received. So they've already contributed like over $200,000 to this project. Then they come back and they're like, give us $65,000. We have a contractor standing by it right now who's going to take and put this cross on this building right now if you give us this money. That is bullshit. That is utter bullshit. I mean, that's just, oh my god, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. Plaintiffs made the contribution, yet the cross was not affixed to the building until 5 years later. So they donated the $218,000. They took and did another $65,000. It took them another 5 years to put a damn cross on a building. And people wonder why people say that Scientology is full of bullshit. It's not that hard to figure out, people. Let's see here. Plaintiffs allege that the representations made them made to them for their contributions to the superpower project were knowingly false when made, and they relied on them to their detriment. So a second category of payment. So the first category is, hey, they kept lying to us and weaseling more money out of us for this superpower project. They weaseled out this $218,000. They weaseled out another $65,000, lying to us the whole way. So now here's the second category of payment. Sought damages or contributions made to defendant based on false representations regarding specific Scientology activities. Plaintiffs identified 8 different contributions made which defendants represented were to be used to help starving children in Africa, help tsunami victims in the Pacific, and a campaign to eliminate child pornography. Plaintiffs allege that those projects either did not actually exist or that only a small fraction of the money raised was spent to create the appearance of extensive humanitarian activities used as inducements to obtain contributions from members. The contributions in that category of damages approximately $40,000. So they kept coming to them and going, oh, we're helping these tsunami victims, and we're helping this, and we're going to eliminate child pornography. We need money. And they either didn't do anything with it, or they made a false campaign to get more people to donate money. Does this sound like a legitimate religion to anybody? I mean, is this not getting through to people? I mean, I'm just not understanding. Third category of damages involved prepayments made by plaintiffs for counseling and training sessions, as well as related food and accommodations. These deposits were solicited by defendants upon the express understanding that any unused funds would be refunded upon demand. Scientology represented to the Internal Revenue Service that its refund policy was that if someone was not happy with Scientology, they only had to request their donations back and agree to forego further services, and the donations would be returned. Nonetheless, despite plaintiffs satisfying those prerequisites, defendants refused to refund their money. So then on top of all of this, you've weaseled them out of money for a building fund, for a cross, for these false campaigns of humanitarian aid. They prepaid for services, and then they're saying, fuck this, give me my money back. And you're like, no, we're going to keep your money. So they moved to compel arbitration, and the plaintiffs argued that arbitration provisions could not be enforced because they are unconscionable, and non-evidentiary hearing was held on the issue, after which the court set an evidentiary hearing limited to the issues of the defense of unconscionability and existence of arbitration procedures of the Church of Scientology, international application. So they have 3 categories that they're seeking payment for, pretty much. So they had taken it to court after trying to get their money back from Scientology. And Scientology giving them a big middle finger because they wanted to keep money. And so they went to court. And Scientology was like, you can't take us to court. That's unconscionable. You can't do that. We're a church. You can't do that. Here's the thing, Scientology. You're not above the law. People have taken the Catholic Church to court. People have taken Baptist churches to court. People have taken Presbyterian churches to court. People have taken Jewish synagogues to court. Just because you hide behind the veil of religion does not mean you can't be taken to court. Just an FYI there. But it goes on. They were talking about the arbitration facts, and they are discussing how the arbitration is pretty much bullshit, and then it goes down into testimony was presented from two former members who have been declared suppressive. Both testified that the church directed family members who remain Scientologists who have absolutely no contact with them. Subsequent to their resignation letters, plaintiffs were declared suppressive by Scientology. Thereafter, they filed this lawsuit. It was noted in testimony that filing suit against Scientology is considered a high crime against the church. Also in here, before that, it says in 2010, Luis Garcia published a letter of resignation expressing his disillusionment with the church organization. He circulated the letter to several Scientology friends and acquaintances because he was concerned at Scientology's policy that members who left would be declared suppressive persons and all Scientologists were required to disconnect from them. It is established doctrine in Scientology that suppressive persons relinquish all rights as Scientologists and may not receive the benefit of the codes of the church. They are considered to be insane and psychotic and are regarded as enemies with whom Scientology is at war with. In considering whether to require arbitration, one of the primary issues noted by the court was that the arbitration agreement, while lengthy, did not provide any information about the rules or procedure for arbitration, other than the selection of arbitrators. Defendants argued that an internal conflict resolution structure known as the Committee of Evidence constitutes the rules and procedures governing the arbitration. Defendants presented the testimony of Alan Cartwright, and legal director of the Church of Scientology International, who has authority over the legal matters. He testified that he was relying solely on a 1963 policy letter written by L. Ron Hubbard to support his contention that the Committee of Evidence provided the rules that apply to arbitration. Cartwright admitted there had never been any arbitrations in the history of Scientology. So their whole arbitration is a 1963 letter written by L. Ron Hubbard. They've never actually done an arbitration, so they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Yet this judge, in his grand wisdom, decided not to hear the case. That amazes me. It took approximately 2.5 years for arbitration to occur. Plaintiffs proposed over 50 Scientology members as their chosen arbiter, and everyone was rejected by defendants as not being in good standing or otherwise unavailable. Plaintiff and plaintiff's counsel were also informed by Scientology International Justice Chief that since plaintiffs were suppressive persons, they were prohibited from communicating directly with Scientologists in good standing regarding being selected. The trial court acknowledged plaintiffs' difficulty, but attributed it to being a product of religious agreement and noted that there was no real definition of a Scientologist in good standing. The court directed the parties to diligently comply with the procedures of selecting a panel of 3 arbitrators. So, Scientology told them, you can't talk to anybody because you're a suppressive person. You can't talk to anybody in good standing, but you still have, and the court kept going, well, you still have to pick 3 arbitrators. How the fuck can they do that? They can't. It's already taken 2.5 years. Do you want them to spend the rest of their fucking lives trying to do this arbitration? Like, seriously, this is an insane task. You're talking to a bunch of insane Kool-Aid drinking cult members. What do you want them to do? Like, I mean, nothing makes sense. Nothing. It does not click. It does not click up there. It's like a ball rolling from one side to another because there's nothing up there. 8 months later, the court finally determined that there was an impasse between the parties regarding the selection of arbitrators. You fucking think it took 3 years? The court held and the defendants agreed that under the authority of the Federal Arbitration Act, the court had authority to appoint arbitrators. After the trial court explained that they would select all the arbitrators, the defendants argued that the trial court could only appoint plaintiffs' arbitrators. The trial court found this position to be contrary to their previous position, as well as factually and legally incorrect. So, 3 years. 3 years. They've been going back and forth trying to get this arbitration because the fucking trial judge wanted to be a prick. And then the trial's like, oh, okay, fine, look, this is insane. So we can come in under the Federal Arbitration Act. We'll just pick the arbitrators and the Scientology's like, no. You can pick their arbitrator, but we'll pick our own. The trial judge is, excuse me? No, that's not your previous position, sir. You can't do that. Now you understand. Scientology is cuckoo. Nothing gets through. Like, they have their own thoughts and their own procedures that are fucking from the 1950s and 1960s, and they're not changing that shit because, they're still waiting on L. Ron Hubbard to come back, who is long since dead. He died in the 1980s. I was born in the 80s. I'm in my fucking 30s, okay? This is ridiculous. So the court ordered defendants to provide a list of 500 members from which it would choose 20 at random to inquire of their availability. The court was required to enter an order compelling compliance with the order. The court ultimately selected 3 arbitrators from the list provided by defendants. At all stages of selection, the trial court expressly precluded defendants from discussing this matter with the potential arbitrators or contacting them so as to preserve the integrity of the arbitration. So, I mean, this has just gone on and on and on and on. After the arbitration, the arbitrators checked the box of religious arbitration findings from which described plaintiffs' claims as solely seeking to return the donations and not acknowledging the claims for misrepresentation, fraud, or breach of contract. They awarded refunds on accommodations at religious retreats plaintiffs did not attend in the total amount of $18,495.36. So, here's the problem, and this is where I stand. You made them go through this arbitration. They're saying the church defrauded us. The church lied to us. We donated this money based off of a lie. And then you're going to make people that are still drinking the Kool-Aid decide whether they're going to get the money back or not? Do you really think people that are still drinking the Kool-Aid are going to be like, oh yeah, girl, they lie. They lie. Here you go. Here's your money back. No, they're not. They're not. So what they did is they said, the church never lies. You donated that money on your own, so we're going to keep that money. But you didn't go to these retreats, so we'll give you back that money. So they got back a small portion, a very small portion of the money that they have gone through. So it says here, subsequent to the arbitrator's decision, plaintiffs filed to amend an amended motion. Let's see, where I was reading. An amended motion to vacate arbitration awards. They sought relief based on another legal thing, which authorizes factor for evident partially and corruption in the arbitrators. And subsection, another legal quotation, which authorizes the actor where the arbitrators are guilty of misconduct and in refusing to hear evidence pertinent and material to the controversy. So pretty much what they're saying is, look, you made us go through this arbitration. This took way too long. And they are not listening to the evidence. They're refusing to listen to the evidence. And this is ridiculous. After the briefing, the court denied plaintiffs' motions, concluding that their challenges involved matters of religious doctrine and relied on secular motions of due process. The court noted the narrow scope of review further limited the First Amendment. Plaintiffs have appealed that order. So that is a rundown of the first case, and now they're just bringing it to the appellate court saying, look, this is what we've gone through. This is a breakdown of what we're doing, and we want to appeal this. This is bullshit. What we went through is bullshit. So, I didn't mean to do that. So, I'm going to keep an eye out on this case and see if anything pops up on it again. I'm pretty sure that Tony Ortega is also going to be keeping an eye out to see if anything pops up on this case again, because I mean, this is a pretty ridiculous thing that this couple is having to go through. I mean, they've been going through it for a while, and it's just turning into like this big snowball effect. Anyway, so that is the 3 articles that I covered today. So we covered, let's go back through it again. We covered the soap opera drama. We covered how big Scientology actually is, and the Scientology bogus arbitration appellate briefing. I know the appellate briefing was kind of long and it's a little kind of muddled with some legal jargon, but I think that is the most interesting part of it all, is that a lot of these things that Scientology is doing is coming into courts, and people are getting to see this stuff like right there in front of them, and the courts are getting involved. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video, guys. Give this video a thumbs up if you like it. Subscribe if you can, or if you want to see more videos like this. I don't upload regularly on Scientology. I probably should. I like these videos. Anyway, leave a comment down below what you think of the 3 articles I covered. If you know any articles that you want to hear about, leave them in the comment section down below, or look in the description box and find my Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter and send them to me there. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this one. Bye for now.